Well, it's October and I have been catching up on reading, releases that have come in since June, and I'm reading some things that won't be until December. So I'm between the past and the future. But I'm here now. So I've got 3 books for you and we shall plunge straight in. Our first one today, Mr. Carver's Whale by Lynn Hughes. I think that was out in June. I know I read it, it must be about 2 months ago. So yeah, must have been sometime around then. And this comes to us from Fourth Estate. And what a little gem. I absolutely love this. It's a very thoughtful read. It's set all over the world, to be totally honest. It starts in the Azores and on the Isle of Pico. And we have 2 brothers. And they are Marcellino and Antonio. And they're very different in a lot of ways. Antonio is the one who is born with a significant deformity. And his brother is sort of the handsome whaler. So Marcellino goes out on the boat whaling and Antonio can't do that. So he stays at home. And one day, a chest of books arrives when he's very young. And they are, for him, sent by his aunt, who lives in Lisbon, and he's fascinated by reading about the whales. He eventually ends up in Lisbon with this aunt, and his world is opened up into knowledge and culture and education. And that's a very special relationship. It's very beautifully done. And then eventually, the fates sort of decree that he'll have to go back to his island, and his life and his brother's life overlap in so many ways, even to the point that they both end up really loving the same woman, and their interaction with whales and the choices they make are sort of mirroring each other. At one point, one of the brothers dies, I'm not going to say who, and the other brother ends up out on the boats whaling, changes his name to Max Carver, and this is the character we're following for most of the novel. And throughout all his little journeying right to Newfoundland and all the way around the world, he ends up in a place called Eden on the New South Wales coast of Australia, where he settles. He employs a young housekeeper called Alice, who has a past, and she falls in love with a local school teacher, Jeannie, who also has a past. And a lot of this book is about what we've done in our past, why we did those things, and how we may or may not have to atone for those or get forgiven for those things, or forgive ourselves for those things. This is about one of the most tender and yet sort of peopled with all sorts of adventures, the taste for life, and the taste for sexual and romantic adventuring and connection. It's, even though I've sort of said a lot of it is about atonement, it's also, I suppose there is a subtle, and because it's historical fiction, it's very beautifully woven in that even then, if we looked at the way we plundered the oceans for whales and did not connect to them as animals or a species deserving of its place or of our respect, then if that was the way the world was worked and that industry worked, then there has to be a reckoning. At least this is what Lynn Hughes is working on, is that our individual characters in this, Max particularly, has to look at his life, and at some point is asked to make sense of what he's done in the past and maybe sort of balance things out with what he does. It's full of, I suppose what I liked most is that the journey, the travel, the different cultures, the different lands, his different affairs, his different connections with people. So I just thought it was so much, a whole world, a whole universe of thought and philosophy in this, in following this life of one man, and what a life. And it's about that. What is your life? What's it worth? And have you made good choices? You better watch out. All right, so that's Fourth Estate. Lynn Hughes, Mr. Carver's Whale, a top-notch read. a big fave from me. Next one up is Isaac and the Egg by Bobby Palmer. And this one comes to us from Headline Review. And it's imagine me, saying words fail me. This was the most astonishingly quirky read that I suppose surprised me by where it went to. And I love that because it was an adventure. You read the blurb on the back of the book and you say, what am I going to get? And this gives nothing away. Not really. We have a young man called Isaac. And at the start of the book, basically, he's on a bridge, hanging over an abyss, and this great big yawping scream comes out from the abyss and he screams back. So he returns that compliment and then decides that whatever it was that screamed obviously needed help. Now, we're all picturing him up in this bridge, and we've picked up clues up to this point to drop like breadcrumbs in the duck pond that, all is not well with Isaac, and that he's lost something or someone. This great sort of sense of loss is there all the time. Anyway, he goes down and he tries to find the source of the noise and does, and it's an egg, an egg-shaped thing. Egg-shaped thing and Isaac come back to the house, and Isaac tries to work out, what was the point? Is it lost? Does it want to go home? And the egg-shaped thing, we'll call it egg, slowly morphs. He finds out that it has actually got arms. It tries to communicate with him. It tries to communicate what it wants. And Isaac is therefore obliged to kind of communicate with it and to find out what it wants. So there's this is why I took from it. It was the beginning of kind of opening up into interaction with someone or something else. Isaac, it turns out, and I won't go further than this with what we do know, is that this little egg loves being read to, loves picture story books. And Isaac, as it turns out, was an illustrator. Still is, but obviously not working because his life is absolutely blinking shambolic. He's not got himself together. He's in that terror of loss where he is completely immobilized by tragedy. And this egg, unpredictable and all, loves to be read to. So Isaac reads him picture story books, and that is incredibly relevant, but I'm not going to go any further with that. I thought this was, at the beginning, quirky and amusing, and I laughed quite a lot consistently throughout this book, but very subtly, there was a subtle sort of change into this. It's not even a commentary, it's a fictionalization of what the grief process can be when you have lost someone. And we realize he has lost his wife. I mean, you've got that from the beginning, so that's not a spoiler. It was beautiful. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me wonder at how you can create such a strange thing and keep your reader in there saying, this is not all nonsense. This was just terrific. An absolute, perhaps the biggest surprise. It kept me in there all the time. And at the end, I was going, okay, that was super good. Loved it. Have a go at that one. And the last one up for today. I've really got 3 goodies. This is just joy for me because all of these did something to my heart. There you go. Lucy by Sea by Elizabeth Strout. Now, you will all know what I think of Elizabeth Strout and what I think of Lucy. This is out now. This, as you will notice, is a reading copy, which is what I read. And knowing Elizabeth Strout, it would probably be almost identical to what the final printed thing is because she's such a good writer. Oh, I loved it. You know that O. William, like this is the Lucy Barton series, and O. William, which is, my name is Lucy Barton, and then there was Anything Is Possible, which is around her world. And then there was O. William. And O. William is shortlisted for the Booker, which is due on the 7th, methinks. And I think this one's even better. And I think they need to be read as a follow-on. It's very, very closely linked to O. William. So O. William is Lucy Barton's first husband, with whom she has, in O. William, sort of reconnected, and there's a very strong friendship, a very companionship bond going on. And Lucy, this is set in the time of when COVID strikes, and Lucy is in New York and William comes and says, we've to get out of here. I'm taking you back to Maine and we're going to set up in a little house by the sea and we'll stay there for the duration. That's quite a duration. Strout gets so much said with this simple language. She encapsulates so much with so few words. This is very true. I don't know if I can say what, there's something, because she's not messing around with over describing. Strout, and I think through Lucy we get this thinking on what I feel and what I know. What I particularly loved about this is that at some point Lucy comes across people who are very unlike her and who don't want her to be there because she's from New York and they're from Maine, and they kind of target her as being an outsider. She's not used to that. Well, she's used to a lot if you know Lucy Barton. She's had one hell of a life. And then at some point she starts writing again as COVID had kind of stopped because she had other concerns, and they're all part of this little cosmos of hers where she starts writing again, but she writes a story about kind of a redneck policeman whose views would be very different from hers. And she suddenly realizes she can't put that out there, that everybody's story and everybody's opinion is built not on nothing or on a whim. It's built on their lived experience. So we become very aware of this need to at least acknowledge, if not respect, the different ways people have of going about their lives. And there's never a word that's schoolmarmy or preachy or even politically nuanced. She has this amazing neutrality. It's serene, and you can feel the kind of the head turn of a very, very, very sharp bird, sort of looking out for where story is and then sort of plucking it. We also deal with Lucy Barton's two daughters. One of the what it is to be loved, what it is to be hurt by your children or to be seen to be hurtful to them. There's elements of sort of miscarriage, of infidelity, of breaking up with former husbands, and all the sort of the silly mistakes and the serious things that they come up against, which would affect everybody's happiness. Lucy's as a mother, and William all the way through this is kind of a little bit like her benchmark. He keeps bringing her back to herself, bringing her back to what she feels and therefore to what she knows. It's about holding very, very close a universe that is dear to us. And it's also with Strout's writing by holding, understanding and staying close to the small narrative that we're able to face the big one. Words fail me. It's brilliant. That's it. All right, I will see you soon, I presume. It's up to me, obviously, but there will be another round of these in no time at all, I promise you. Bye-bye.